Victor Wembanyama have had a run so crazy that the NBA hasn't seen anything like it from such a young player in some time. And it got so wild that even the GOAT had to step in and say something.
No one can stop him, and I'll tell you why.
But here's what nobody's telling you. It's not only MJ. Wait till you hear how many NBA players secretly picked him over LeBron. Trust me, this is some of the juiciest news that's leaked from the league in a long while. Here's one crazy thing about Victor Wembanyama that we really don't talk about enough. Before Michael Jordan ever publicly said a single word about him, there was a moment, a very, very terrifying moment in 2025 that almost ended him. And MJ watched it happen from a distance. And that made him go, yeah, he's the one. And once you hear what that moment actually was, you'll understand exactly why. It was March 2025. The San Antonio Spurs were quietly putting together one of the most fascinating seasons in recent NBA history. And Wemby was the reason why. This dude was already averaging insane career numbers for himself. And then boom, out of nowhere, the news dropped. Victor Wembanyama had been diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. And if you don't know what that is, let me explain why the entire Spurs team lost it when they heard those words. See, DVT is a blood clot condition. It sounds manageable until you realize this is the exact same injury that ended Yao Ming's career, who at his peak was genuinely one of the 5 most dominant players on the planet. Yet he never recovered. His body simply couldn't handle it. Music and Bill Walton, who many still consider one of the greatest centers ever to play the game, had his entire career destroyed by the same condition. So when Wemby got that same diagnosis at just 21 years old, the conversation very quickly stopped being about basketball and started being about whether this kid would ever be the same player. But here's where it gets genuinely crazy. Music. The Spurs didn't just call their team doctor and hope for the best. They went and got NASA. Yeah, like actual NASA human performance research protocols. The same recovery systems they use for astronauts coming back from space. They applied that same technology to Wembanyama's recovery. And on top of that, they had him doing these very specific toe strengthening and circulation exercises that were designed to basically reroute the blood flow pressure away from the clot zone without shutting down his athleticism. So this guy is sitting there doing foot resistance band work while being monitored by equipment that belongs in a space shuttle. And through all of that, Wem said nothing. No complaints, no dramatic Instagram posts, no pray for me selfie. He just worked. Music. And when he came back even faster than the medical timeline anyone had projected. And he looked angrier on the court than he did before the injury, which honestly should have been a warning sign for the rest of the league that this dude was about to become a problem for them in the best way possible. So, according to insiders, Michael Jordan was watching all of this from a distance, music, and told people close to him that it reminded him of himself. And notice he didn't say the talent reminded him of himself or the stats. He said the resilience did. The fact that this kid got handed one of the scariest diagnoses a basketball player could get, and instead of shrinking, he came back even better. And if you think that's just MJ being generous, wait until you hear what he said about WMBB's mentality, because that's where this gets really, really interesting. Listen, if you think MJ was just impressed by a 7 feet 4 inches dude who could shoot, you've been watching the wrong sport. Jordan doesn't care about your vertical or your wingspan. He cares about how much dedication you put into the game when the lights go out. And what Mike saw in WBY during that 2026 comeback wasn't just a player returning from a blood clot. He saw a kid who had officially entered his villain era. This is the part where the nice, humble French kid we all saw at the draft died. You have to realize MJ knows exactly what it feels like to have the world bet against you. When Jordan came back in '95 after the baseball stint, people said he'd lost a step, that the game had passed him by. Fast forward to 2026, and Victor was hearing the exact same garbage. Charles Barkley, who, let's be real, has been a professional Wemby critique since day Music 1, was out here basically saying the skinny kid was done because he is the only player that can't seem to gain weight. Chuck literally went on record saying WBY can't be the face of the league because he was too fragile. He even used that 2025 DVT scare to try to say I told you so to the entire world. But here's the twist. Jordan actually called Chuck, picked up the phone and told him he was dead wrong. Because Jordan didn't just see a medical recovery. He saw a kid who had found his own personal bad boy pistons. For MJ, it was Lemire and Rick Mahorn trying to take his head off. For Victor, it was every analyst who called him a project or skinny. MJ told his inner circle that Victor now plays to destroy, not to make friends. Music, and if you watch his recent games, you know that kid is back for revenge. And the way he prepped for that revenge, it's genuinely some movie villain type of stuff. While the rest of the league was going on vacation or taking time to rest during the 2025 offseason, Wemby went into what people are calling his warrior monk phase. He basically vanished. Music, in June 2025, he traveled to the Shaolin Temple in Henan, China. I'm not exaggerating. Photos went viral of a bald monk rode Webb meditating with monks. Music, but it wasn't just for the Graham. He was undergoing a 10,000 kicks per day kung fu regimen. Yeah, the same training Bruce Lee went through. But why kung fu, you ask? Well, to be honest, at 7 feet 4 inches in, his greatest enemy isn't a defender, it's gravity. He spent 10 days mastering the Shaolin 13 fist form to learn how to generate force from his core and master the mechanics of his own limbs. He wanted to strike and recover faster than any human could at that size. But that's not even the best part. It gets weirder. He went back home to France and started doing lightning chest. So basically what that was is that his trainers would put him through a high-intensity cardio exercise, and the second he stopped while his heart rate was pushing 190 beats per minute, they'd shove a chessboard in front of him. He had to play blitz chess in a state of absolute physical exhaustion. Why? To train his brain to process the game in variable reality. So he wasn't just training his muscles. He was training his brain to keep working long after everyone is tired and can't function at maximum capacity. This is the same obsession MJ had. Remember the Breakfast Club? Music. How MJ used to train at 5 a.m. just to make sure he was physically and mentally superior to everyone he stepped on the floor with? Yeah, Victor took that 90s obsession and upgraded it with neuroscience in 2026. And the result? Well, the shrug isn't just an MJ thing anymore. Throughout the 2025 to 26 season, music, we started seeing Victor hit these impossible game winners. Shots that should be physically unblockable. And he wouldn't even crack a smile. No chest beating, no yelling at the crowd. He'd just turn around and walk off the court with this cold-blooded look that made even older players uncomfortable. It's that MJ-level composure. Doc Rivers actually got on an interview recently where he admitted that coaches are now terrified because Victor has officially developed that Kobe and Michael Jordan mean streak.
Of guard him than the longer guys. He's just so talented. And he's another guy that has the Kobe Michael mean streak.
Right.
And I love that.
So when I say this dude is a beast, I'm not talking about some potential or future star hype. I'm talking about a resume that even some of our NBA legends don't have. Music. You want to know why the entire league is panicking? Because as of April this year, Victor Wembanyama officially joined Michael Jordan, and literally only Michael Jordan, as the only two players to make 3,000 points, 500 assists, music, and 100 blocks in their first 135 games. Even LeBron didn't have that. And if you think that's a fluke, check the trophy case. This year, Wemby didn't just win Defensive Player of the Year. He became the youngest ever to do it, and the first ever unanimous winner. Not a single voter could look at the tape and say someone else was even on the same level as him. But honestly, the real math behind what he's doing is what really breaks people's brains. Music on February 23rd, 2024. While most rookies were still trying to figure out where the best post-game spot is, Wem was busy becoming the youngest player in history to clock a 5*5 against the Lakers, which means 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks. The ultimate I can do everything better than you stat line. But all that was just the start. He also finished his rookie run as the only player ever to hit 1,500 points, 250 blocks, and 100 threes in a single season. It's like someone took a prime Hakeem Olajuwon, gave him Kevin Durant's jumper, and told him he wasn't allowed to lose. Also, his player efficiency rating is sitting at 23.1. To put that in perspective, that is the third best start in history since Wilt Chamberlain. And it gets crazier when you hear that when WBY is on the floor, the opponent's rim frequency drops by 20%. That means 1 out of every 5 times a team wants a drive, they see that 8-foot frame and literally just change their minds and turn around. In fact, in 2026, players' shooting percentages at the rim are dropping by nearly 25% just because he's standing in the paint. He doesn't even have to jump. He's just standing there. And professional NBA scorers are suddenly forgetting how to do a layup. Music, it's that MJ and Kobe level of psychological warfare. You're not just playing against a defender. You're playing against the fear of getting your ball slapped off on national TV. And don't even get me started on the offense. Usually with a guy this big, you just hack them and hope they miss the free throws. Music, but not this guy. He's shooting 82% from the stripe and 35% music from deep. If you leave him open, it's 3 points. And if you close out too hard, he's putting the ball on the floor and dunking from the free throw line. There is literally no right way to guard him. The craziest part is that the legends aren't even trying to hide their shock anymore. You've got the old guard and the current superstars all saying the same thing. When the Greek freak is out here looking like he's seen a ghost, you know the league is cooked. Giannis literally went on record saying he's never seen anything like him.
I don't know. I've never seen anything like him. 7'4", 7'5". I don't know how tall he is.
Coming from a guy who's basically a 7-foot freight train himself, that's saying a lot. It's like the current superstars are looking at him and realizing they just discovered their biggest threat. But it's not just the guys on the court. Even the older legends are losing their minds. Shaq, the same Shaq who usually spends his time telling every modern big man they're too soft, actually admitted is a whole different breed.
I saw one game, he threw between legs, threw behind his back, stepped back and shot the 3, and it looked good, and it went in. He's a whole different breed.
For Shaq to give a big man his flowers without a back in my day attached to it, that's how you know things are about to get crazy in the league. And then you have Kendrick Perkins. Big Perk did what he always does and tried to put WBY in that Mount Rushmore conversation immediately. He dropped the line.
25 years from now, the GOAT conversation is going to go with starting with these 3 names. LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Victor Wembanyama.
Now, look, we all know Perk is the ultimate LeBron loyalist, but even he can't deny that Wemby has skipped the line. He's already being talked about in the same breath as the guys who have 4 or 6 rings, and he's barely legal enough to buy drinks in the States. So, honestly, the legends are in awe. The analysts are confused. But if you think the hype from the legends is exaggerated, you haven't seen how coaches are literally trying to cheat just to slow him down. You want to know how much of a nightmare this kid has become for the rest of the league? Just look at the Wemby rules. Back in the 90s, if you wanted to stop Michael Jordan, you had to physically assault him. We all know the Jordan rules were basically a license for the bad boy Pistons to cross-line MJ every time he stepped in the paint. But according to rumors, in 2026, coaches aren't trying to hurt Wemby. They're trying to figure out how to play a game where they can physically slow him down. Do it. Think about the math for a second. MJ was 66, navigating a world of giants, using sheer will to slice through the defense. We is 7 feet 4 inches and with an 8-foot wingspan, navigating a world of pace and space, where he's the biggest and most skilled guy on the floor. Music in 2026. The Wemby rules are being written in real time by coaches music, who are realizing that a traditional double team is actually a death sentence. You can't trap a guy who sees over the trap. Music, if you send 2 guys at him, he just lobs a cross-court pass that looks like a quarterback throwing a touchdown. It's gotten so desperate that you'll see modern bruisers, guys who built their whole careers on being the roughest dudes on the court, trying to bully him, leaning all their weight into his hips just to move him an inch. And WBY, he just smiles, waits for them to try a layup, and blocks the ball without even leaving his feet. It's the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. Imagine being a 250-pound grown man, putting your soul into a move, and a kid just reaches up and plucks the ball out of the air like he's grabbing a bag of chips from the top shelf. But his craziest skill is the music jumper. I actually did the math on this. When Victor goes for a shot, the release height is nearly 11 feet to put it in perspective. The standing reach of the NBA's most elite interior defenders, even giants like Rudy Gobert, caps out at 9 feet 7 inches in. For a normal human, that's already a terrifying height. But in the world of elite basketball, that is the literal ceiling for the best standard big men. Music Anthony Davis, despite his incredible mobility and length, sits way lower at approximately 9 feet. It's almost like Kareem Skyhook, but from the three-point line. The Wemby rules aren't about being tough. They're about survival. Coaches are starting to pull their centers out to the perimeter just to hope they can distract him. But all it does is open up the lane for him to glide in for a dunk. But as crazy as the Wemby rules are, they're actually part of a much bigger, much more petty game being played behind the scenes. Because while the world is arguing over Wemby versus the field, the NBA fans are using Victor as the ultimate weapon in a war against one specific person. If you're a LeBron fan, you might want to look away now because the math is about to get real disrespectful. See, Victor Wembanyama is doing something LeBron never had the guts to do. He's building a dynasty from scratch without needing a super team. Think about the decision. Think about 2010 when LeBron decided he needed Wade and Chris Bosh to finally get over the hump. He needed the Avengers just to reach his apex. But look at WBY in 2026. He's out here dragging a young Spurs team, guys who were basically in high school when he got drafted into the playoffs. He's not looking for a big three. He is the big three. But here's where the debate started. By April 2026, Wemby statistically surpassed LeBron's early career impact in almost every metric that actually matters for winning. We're talking about a kid who led the Spurs to a historical 5-0 start in 2025 while coming off a literal blood clot scare. And let's talk about the hardware because this is where the LeBron loyalists start getting real quiet. LeBron spent 20 years trying to be the ultimate two-way force, right? He's got the blocks. He's got the chase downs. But he never won Defensive Player of the Year. Not music once. This year, Wemby didn't just win it. He became the first ever unanimous Defensive Player of the Year. It took LeBron nearly a decade to even reach his defensive peak. And Victor just surpassed that in his third year. And it doesn't stop there. In 2026, Wemby did the one thing LeBron James famously ducked for 23 years straight. He signed up for the slam dunk contest.